you, Electoral Trucker here. Welcome to M.A.S. Movies and Shows. And man, we got a treat today. I cannot wait to start picking this man's brain. So let's not waste any more time, especially because we're going to talk about a movie that's good and dear in my heart, and not a lot of people know about it, but you're going to. We are talking about the producer of the movie Down for Life, one Mr. Frank Aragon. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Just a rush, working, trucking, and trying to get here and do this. I've been very excited to talk with you. I know you've had your hands in quite a few different projects, but there is definitely one movie that I really want to talk to you about. But before we do all that, sir, just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your upbringing, mom, dad, where were you raised, and how did you stumble onto the business?
Yeah. I was born in Boyle Heights, raised in El Sereno. We moved eventually to the San Gabriel Valley and grew up in Alhambra, Monterey Park, Rosemead, San Gabriel, Montebello. We moved around a lot. It was there was no stable environment. My mom and my dad split up when I was 7, and my mom was a single parent, and I didn't see my dad again until I was about 13. So he was gone for a long time, and those crucial years as a young man. And so I grew up very fast on the streets, with all my friends being older than me. In fact, like when I was 13 years old, growing up in Rosemead, I was the youngest kid in the group of friends that I hung out with. They were all 19, 20, 21, and I grew up fast. But we still had cousins that lived in Boyle Heights. So my aunt and my uncle Roy and my auntie Esther lived in Boyle Heights, right off of Sheridan Street in Cornwall. And my mom, when she would had to go to work, or I needed a babysitter, she would drop me off at my aunt's. So there I was back in Boyle Heights, growing up on the streets right there in Boyle Heights. I grew up, I guess, kind of angry, because of missing my dad, and maybe even the way my mom was with me. So I was very protective over my friends and my family and my cousins, and I was always getting into fights, always getting into fist fights at school and in the neighborhood in Boyle Heights, because the older, bigger kids would pick on my cousin Roy, who was, the same age as me, and I would just jump in and duke it out with these guys, because I wasn't gonna let anybody pick on my cousin. So it was scrapping all the time when I was younger, and when I got older, we moved around so much, but at the time Rosemead was junior high school. We had moved from Alhambra. I remember being so upset because my mom was changing me schools again, and I was going from sixth grade to the seventh grade, and now I was in a new neighborhood in a new school,
Yeah.
and I cried. I literally cried. I was so upset. I thought I was finally in one school for 3 years. I thought, oh, I'm gonna graduate, with my friends,
Hmm.
and nope, I had to start a new school, and that's where I got bit by the bug. The acting bug. I got into the drama class, and my hormones are raging as a young man, and I had a crush on my drama teacher, and so every morning, every morning I'd get up and I'd go to that class because I wanted to see Mrs. Inlow, and I wanted to volunteer to read all the plays, and I would
Okay.
read the plays, and I'd read everything, and then I think we did about we read plays throughout the year, but then we performed actual plays on stage, and
Mhm.
I volunteered and acted in all of them, and that's kind of where I got bit by the acting bug and was like, oh my god, I want to be an actor. I want to. This is what I want to do.
Mm.
So by the time eighth grade came around, I felt more confident who I was, and again I loved my drama class, and I ran for student body president, and I got up on stage and gave a speech to the whole, 650 kids that I was going to change the cafeteria food, make it better. And I won. I won by a classroom, and I was student body president. I was straight A student that year, super involved with school, and I knew I wanted to be in show business. So next year came around, ninth grade. I went to high school and I played football, high school football for Marquette High School, and that's the only thing that kept me interested was high school football. And then the
Right.
rest of the time, I was checked out. I didn't like high school. I didn't want to be there. They put me in all the classes with the smart kids because I had done so well in eighth grade and seventh grade that now I was in classes with a bunch of kids I didn't even know. And again, I was like, I don't want to be here. I want to be with my friends.
Mhm.
So I checked out. I started ditching school and I started pursuing a career in the business. I would take the bus to Hollywood. I would sneak onto the lots at Universal and Paramount Pictures and Warner Brothers, and I would walk the lots as a kid. I'm like 15 years, whatever, when you're freshman in high school, I'll be
Yeah.
13, 14 years old. And I
Uh,
was walking the lots, reading the names on the doors, and I was looking for the casting director's names. And wherever there was a casting director's name, I would put my headshot and resume in their mailbox, like personally deliver it to them. Some of them I would walk in the door and they would, the secretary there, and I would hand them my picture and resume. And they're like, "Who's this kid?" And
yeah. Yeah.
that was my way of like, I want to do this. I want to do this. And eventually I discovered a casting director by the name of Bob Morones,
Mhm.
and Bob was the casting director for Platoon. He used to
Oh,
do
okay.
all of Oliver Stone's movies,
Ah.
and Bob was a Latino. His nickname was Blackie. He was also from the Boyle Heights area,
Mm.
and I learned Bob's story, and I Bob was a casting director for Latino films and Latino actors, and so I was persistent with him. I bug him and leave my picture and resume in his mailbox, and every week I'd leave a picture and resume.
Real quick, Mr. Aragon, around what time was this? What year would you say this would be?
So I was supposed to graduate in like 86, 87. So
Mhm.
this would have been like 1983, 1982, I guess.
What was it easy to sneak on to the to Hollywood, to the film sets and all that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was a kid. Listen, on my other days when I wasn't like trying to sneak on the studio lots, I would take the bus to Dodger games, and I
Yeah.
would sneak into Dodger Stadium. You know,
Oh.
I'd go to the reserve level, and I would stick my little fingers in the metal gates, and I would just pull the door open, and they weren't locked, and I would just walk in. Like they were paying no attention to a kid like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
by myself, and I could get in anywhere. And
Wow.
yeah, nobody was paying any attention to me. It was crazy. Yeah,
Wow, that is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
One thing that can definitely relate with you. As a kid, I moved around a lot, and we lived there in City Terrace. We lived in Montebello. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, you were born in Beverly Hospital.
I'm sorry.
You were born at Beverly Hospital, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
I was born at Beverly Hospital in Montebello. Yes.
Yeah, I went to the elementary right behind that called Fremont Elementary. So
Oh,
we moved around a lot as well. So I
yeah,
definitely know what it's like not to have a stable home, and then it seeming like, okay, you know what? Looks like we're planting our flag right here, and I'm getting to know some friends and everything, and then it's like, hey, we're gonna move. Like, oh man, it sucks.
yeah, yeah.
But okay, so now you're a kid, you're there, you start meeting people, and how far is it along? Did you start making some moves in the business?
Yeah, so I it came to a point in my career where at that very beginning, I think I was like 19 years old, and I'd started, when I was, 14, 15, and I got like one commercial here, and a small role in a short film here, and it was just bits and pieces, you know.
Mm,
And I said, I had a kid, I was a young dad, so I had my daughter, and so I was a teenage father, pretty much too as well. And I thought, I gotta take care of my daughter. I gotta like take care of my family, and so I joined the Navy. I signed up for the Navy. I walked into the recruiting office and I signed up, and then one of the recruiters told me about Bud School. Bud School was basic underwater demolition, which was
wow.
basically a school to become a SEAL. You joined that school, you joined the program, the Navy, you went into Bud School, and then you became a SEAL.
Uh-huh,
And at the
uh-huh.
time, that's what it was. I didn't even know back then, but that's what I wanted to do. So I signed up, and then they said, when do you want to like join? And I was gonna join, like go in, check into the Navy like in a year, like 9 months later or something like that.
Mm,
And I said, you know what, I'm gonna give myself 9 months, and if I don't get like something big in my career, that's it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna be in the Navy, and be a Navy career man,
mhm.
and I got a play, and the play was in West Hollywood at the Callboard Theater, and then we did the play there for about 3 months, and then the producer came to us, and said that Barry Gordy, one of the founders of Motown, came in and watched the play and loved it, and was sending all of us to New York off Broadway to do the play in New York City.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm 19 years old. I'm going
Mhm.
to New York City as an actor. It was a dream come true, and I'm going to be in a play off Broadway. And so I went, and time came for the me to join the Navy, and I said, "Nah, I ain't going to the Navy. I'm gonna be an actor."
Through the beginning of your career, as you're saying right there, you got a chance to go to New York. What was mom thinking? What was your family thinking?
My wife, my high school sweetheart Lydia, was super supportive of me. My mom was supportive of me. They thought I was a little crazy, but when I got the things I got, they believed in me, and they let me go do my thing, and there was off to New York City for the first time in my life. I'd always said I wanted to go to New York City, and the first time I wanted to go there, I wanted to go as an actor, and my dream
Wow.
came true. That was my first dream come true. I got to go to New York City and was an actor in a play off Broadway. That was it
Wow.
was pretty amazing.
Wow. Wow. Not too many people could say that. Not too
Yeah,
many people could say that. That is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So, like you're telling me, who was it that you mentioned that was working with the Latino actors at that time?
Bob Moronis. Bob Moronis
Bob,
was the casting director.
okay, Bob Moronis. What movies was he involved with? What actors? Who were you looking up to at that time?
Well, Bob casted Platoon, and
Okay, right.
that was with Charlie Sheen and
Yes.
um, uh, uh, the really good actor that was the good guy in the movie. Tom Berenger was the bad guy in that movie.
Yeah,
There was it was a great cast.
it was. It
Oliver
was.
Stone directed it, and then he also did El Salvador. He did the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez. He did a bunch of films with Gregory Nava.
Mm,
That Gregory Nava did Mi Familia and
okay.
Selena. Um,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah,
Nice.
and so Bob was working with all he worked with Sal Lopez and Pepe Serna and Diana Ortelli, Alfonso Arul. I mean, all the everybody you can think of at that time that was working and making progress in the industry. Bob was working on those films or working with those actors. So it was pretty amazing.
Nice, nice. And I definitely want to get into the movie that we're gonna get into. But from what I understand, I heard that you were involved in the movie Angel Town. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
What
yeah.
what did you do? What did you do with that movie?
Yeah, so I come back from New York doing the play off Broadway, right?
Mm,
And casting directors were looking at me little differently. And
okay.
Bob, who I'd bugged the shit out of, Bob Morones, he was the casting director on Angeltown, and he brought
Mm.
me in, and then he saw on my resume that I had just came back from New York doing a play off Broadway, and he was like so impressed that I, got a play and went back east to do a play, and then I came back and he told the director about me. I came in and I auditioned, and he brought me for a callback. And on the callback, I was reading with my mother in the movie, who eventually played my mother in the movie, Teresa Saldana.
Oh,
And so Teresa Saldana played my mother in the film, and she was in Raging Bull. She was Joe
yeah.
Pesci's wife in Raging Bull.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
she was the actress that got stabbed, and the Sparklets man saved her life because of a stalker fan. You know, and so
Wow.
very very famous. She had worked on so many things, but I read with her, and they gave me the role, and that was my first movie, Angeltown. I was like first starring role in a film, and I
Yeah.
I played Martin Ordonez, and I'm the kid who's being pressured to join the gang, and the kickboxer in the movie, Olivier Gruner, like wakes me up to like fight back, and
Yeah.
stand up to the guys, and
That
so
is
it's a
that
great
is
movie.
oh man, Frankie, let me tell you, that is awesome. So you had the final fight scene with the main cholo dude, man, that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to raise havoc. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
Tony Dueñas was my like good friend, like he became my good friend. Obviously, we met on the film, and
Mhm.
then years later, when I produced my very first film that I wrote, produced, and directed, funded the film myself and everything, I hired Tony to play the father of the other character, and then me and Tony have this scene at a cemetery, where I'm telling him that he was a horrible father to his kid, and that
Mm.
his kid's dead now, and it's just this confrontational scene. But yeah, that's how I met Tony. That's how I eventually hired Tony to be in my movie.
That is awesome. You know, I did not know that was you, honestly. I just heard that you were involved with the movie, but I
Yeah,
didn't know that that was you. You're like the main guy, man, behind.
yeah,
Did you guys fly that guy, the kickboxer guy? Did you guys fly him from across the pond? Was he here in the States? Where'd you guys find him?
yeah. So Olivier was like a kickboxing champion,
Mhm.
and he had made a deal with Imperial Entertainment, and Imperial Entertainment were doing these like kickboxing movies, and they eventually did movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme, who became real popular.
Oh
But
yeah. Oh
Olivier Gruner was before Jean-Claude
yeah.
Van Damme, and Olivier. So they made a three picture deal with Olivier, and flew him in from Europe, and that was the first movie that they did with him, Angel Town.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember watching that movie when I was a kid.
yeah,
And I remember loving the movie. And then I rewatched it, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I'm like, "Ah, man, I remember loving it more when I was a kid," it's good for that time, for the time.
totally. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, for that time. For
yeah,
anybody today, if you guys wanna go check it out, but I'm not gonna say that it's gonna wow you. It's very much for
yeah,
that time. Either you
yeah,
watched it then and you would have loved it because of the time. But if you
yeah.
watch it today, it's probably gonna go over your head. But
Yeah.
oh man,
And
that's
it was amazing because when that film came out, Angel Town came out, we came out at the movie theaters, and at the same time as Born on the Fourth of July with Tom Cruise, and in the
oh
Los
okay.
Angeles, Southern California area, we did better numbers than Born on the Fourth of July with Tom Cruise. Our per screen
Wow.
average was over $7,000 opening weekend, and then it continued on second weekend, and we were still beating in LA, Southern California. We were still beating Born on the Fourth of July with Tom Cruise.
Wow. Wow. No,
So
that's saying something
yeah,
because Born on the Fourth of July, that's quite a powerful movie. I
yeah,
you
oh
know
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah,
that's quite the movie.
yeah,
Frank, let's go ahead and let's get into this movie. Not a lot of people know about it. I, I'm gonna apologize up front. I watched it a while back. It was out bootleg,
Yeah,
unfortunately. I
yeah,
had no idea. I was just like, hey, it's there. I've never seen this movie. Let me
yeah,
go ahead, check it out. I watched it, and I'm telling you, I loved it. I loved it, and I've highly recommend it, and I've been recommending it ever since to anybody and everybody who would hear me out to say, "Hey, there's this movie out there called Down for Life, and you need to watch it." If you guys are watching, Duke of Earl and Boulevard Nights and Mi Familia or Mi Vida Loca and everything, you guys got to watch this movie, Down for Life, man.
yeah,
But it was always, I don't know if it was just going one ear and out the other. And then I remember hearing people like, hey, where can you find it? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not even really sure where I saw it, but I just
yeah.
remember watching it. Uh, Mr. Aragon, how did you come about this movie? How did you stumble onto this movie? Tell us a little bit about this movie here.
Yeah, so Scott Alvarez, who is another producer on the film, uh, was from Nebraska, and a Mexican American from Nebraska moved out here to Los Angeles, and had Alan Jacobs had got in touch with. They had met Scott and Alan and the original team for Down for Life, and Scott found me on IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Database, because he was looking for a location manager. And I had already done my own film now. Had started producing and directing movies, and I was the location manager for HBO for a film called Real Women Have Curves with America Ferrera, and that was her like breakout film role that she won Sundance. Um, the Sundance Film Festival with, or the film won the Sundance Film Festival with. And so I met with Scott, and they sent me the script. I met with Scott and Ellen, and I had this ritual that any new project I was going to work on, I'd take the script and I'd go to Vegas and I'd sit by the pool, the lazy river at either Monte Carlo or the MGM, and I'd read the script there. It was like this was good luck.
Mhm.
And I'm reading the script in Vegas by the pool, young guy, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I love this script. I love this story.
Mhm.
And so I came back to LA and I met with them again and I said, I don't want to be just a location manager. I want to be a producer. I want to be the producer on this film.
Mhm.
And I know the streets, I know the neighborhoods. I made my own film, in these areas. I have cousins and aunts in Boyle Heights, like we could film there. Um, and Scott and Alan, agreed to that. We basically we made an agreement, and we went out and made the movie. And it wasn't easy, but it was, part of what a producer does. And so we shot the film in Highland Park.
Oh, no.
So
I think you
uh,
just lost your
it
areas. Uh-oh. Let's see if we could get them back on. Let's see. Artie Familia, where can we? Okay, we got you.
Yeah, we filmed the movie all over LA,
Mhm.
Highland Park, South Central, Boyle Heights, and it was just part of all of my everything before that prepared before that film, to make that movie.
Two questions. One is the question that's being asked right here by my boy Artie Marin. Where can we check this movie out?
So right now the film is available on YouTube Red, Amazon, Google, Vudu,
Mhm.
Apple iTunes, and Apple TV, and it's also for sale at Barnes and Noble, Walmart, and Best Buy.
Mhm.
So
And
you
I'm
can,
telling everybody, it's worth the buy. It really
yeah,
is. It's worth the buy. And by the way, go ahead. You know, you spend money on so many other things, so many other movies and everything. This is like homegrown movie right here, man.
Yeah,
When you guys
yeah,
check it out, it is badass. I really loved it. Second thing is, what is a producer, Mr. Aragon? Because we hear, you know, to just folks like myself, it's just we hear all these, you know, fancy names. The director's the one that gets all the credit. It's like, okay, that's the guy, camera, action, you know.
yeah.
But you hear all these other names and everything, and like, oh, okay, a producer, and it's very simple. Hey, what does a producer do? Oh, he produces. Like, well, what is
Yeah.
the actual job? So,
Yeah.
Mr. Aragon, can you enlighten us? What does a producer actually do?
Yeah, so there, lots of variations of producers on movies, and I'll make it very simplified. An executive producer is usually somebody who's brought money to the picture, and so he's either written a big fat check for the movie. Hey, Darlene Aragon just said hello, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, same last name. And so, anyways, an executive producer writes a big fat check or finds the guy who writes the big fat check,
Okay.
and then a producer like me, produced by a producer, is the guy who's actually out there hiring the crew and all the supporting people to add those elements to the film. So, think of it this way: like a contractor that comes and builds your house.
Mhm.
He might be the general contractor, but he hires a bunch of subcontractors. The plumbing guy, the HVAC guy,
Gotcha. Yes.
the
Yes.
drywall guy. But the general contractor is the producer. So I'm the producer on the film, making sure that all those elements are in place.
Got you. Got you. You know, when you put in construction words like that, I know exactly. I used to deliver windows and just different stuff to job sites. And yeah, if you're delivering drywall, there's a bunch of other guys there, but you don't deliver the drywall to just anybody. There's the guys that are there for the actual drywall, but they're working on the same house. You
Yeah.
know, everybody is there. So okay, so you're the guy that's in charge of everybody that's there.
Yeah. The boss on the set.
Got
And
it.
and then I had a bunch of friends in the LAPD, um, that were my like on-set security guys, and because there's be very honest and frank here with the conversation. There were some places we didn't have permits for.
Mhm,
We didn't have the money to shut down certain streets.
mhm,
And and with my cop friends, we were able to do that. So it's like when you have connections,
mhm.
you got it done. And I was making a movie. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's funny because there was a sergeant in the LAPD that's like he's the enforcement guy for like permits in the movie industry. And this guy and I had it out on a film set on another movie, like a micro budget film that was a horror film that we shot up in Eagle Rock, which is
Mm,
close to Highland Park. And the guy showed up, and he was all huffy and puffy and tough. And I challenged him, um, and he threatened to call these other cops. And I'm arguing with this sergeant, this LAPD sergeant,
right,
and I said, man, you're bothering us, and all we're doing is making a movie. Like there's
right,
people down the street selling dope. Go
mhm,
bother them. Go harass them. I'm making a movie. Like big deal,
right, right.
And they couldn't pull our permit. Our permit was legal, for the horror film, and that guy was determined to get me. So when we were filming Down for Life, my LAPD security friends, they're cops, off duty cops, they had told me that they had a briefing in the morning the day before, and that sergeant was in there telling people that he was looking for me because he heard that I was out filming a movie without permits.
Oh man, he just couldn't let it go. He just couldn't let it go, man. Nice. Let's talk about the movie a little bit, and we're not gonna spoil the movie for anybody who hasn't watched it. But basically the what the movie is, it goes around a young girl. There really isn't movies about girl gang members. Probably the only one I could really think of is Mi Vida Loca.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
probably about it. But this movie, it's basically about a couple of cholitas, mainly just one,
yeah.
who really has this talent for writing.
Right.
And her teacher, played by Danny Glover, which I want to get to that as well. You got pretty some pretty big hitters in this movie, but um, her teacher, played by Danny Glover, sees this talent in this young Chicana uh, who's hanging out with the wrong crowd. She's part of a gang. She's out there. She's actually gang banging, in the streets of South Central, getting into trouble and everything. And he's trying to tell her, like, look, you got this talent. You don't see it, but I see it in you. And he's really trying to get her to turn her life around. But at the same time, she's really having a tough time uh leaving that life behind. And what tripped me out about this, Mr. Aragon, this is a true story, is it not?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So the film is based on an essay that was written by Leslie Castillo, and the essay was published in the New York Times and newspaper. And Alan Jacobs discovered the essay and the article, and that's how this movie all came about. Basically, based on Leslie's writing and her essay that she wrote, and it was about like basically one day in the life of herself growing up in South Central LA, going to Locke High School, and
Mm.
that's what we did. We took the essay and turned it into a script that turned into the movie that we made, and put all the elements together that we really wanted to tell the story in a really authentic and raw and
Yes.
raw way, and we
Yes.
feel that even the way we decided to shoot the film, we shot the film on super 16 millimeter, which we could have shot on 35, but we wanted a little bit of grain. We wanted it to feel grainy and to feel authentic and raw and real. And yeah, it turned out, everything fell into the right place, and the acting was superb. And
Hmm.
these young girls that we found, they had never acted in a movie ever before. So it was
Hmm.
the combination of the non-actors with the professional actors that really set this film apart.
Let me talk a little bit about it being authentic. Okay. I ran with a gang, and, back in the days, back in the 90s and all, we actually, in the gang, we actually did have a couple of homegirls. I remember the homegirl Unique, Priscilla, Divine, Bubbles. We actually did have homegirls that were from the actual barrio. And then there's a bunch of other girls that just like to kick it and party and whatever, but that were actually from the barrio. And looking at this movie, it paints a really good picture on what it's really like. When I was watching the movie, I watched it a few years back, and I was watching, I'm like, hey, yeah, I do remember it. That's kind of the way I remember it. But
Yeah,
this through the eyes of the girls. I'm on the outside looking at the girls and saying, that's how I somewhat remember them. And I remember in this movie how you guys showed how one of the girls got into the gang. She actually had to get sexed down by one of the homeboys, and then she got jumped. And
yeah,
I'm like, okay, I remember something like that.
yeah,
Unfortunately, but
yeah,
I do remember something like that. So it being authentic, yes, definitely.
yeah.
Um, these girls, you said that this is the first time acting. Where did you find these young girls?
So we auditioned them at Locke High School in South Central LA, and
Oh, really?
yeah, and we you know uh, we spent time at the school, like basically at like recess or lunch, and Jessica was one of the girls that we saw, and wanted her to come in and audition to read,
Hmm.
and she was reluctant to. She didn't want to, and I think it was one of the teachers that helped convince her to like come in and give it a shot, to come in and read for us, and that's how we found our star. You know what I mean? But it's just amazing. These young girls. they gave it their all, and they were so authentic and so real. Like, and so can you imagine like authentic, real girls that are coming out of this, out of their own neighborhood from like the authenticity of the realness of them, and we were having to, you know, babysit them on set. Like I had to babysit them on set, like and make sure they weren't smoking out in the corner and that they could remember their lines.
So I mean, so because it takes place in this high school, and that same high school, that's where you went to go find them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. And so Jessica, the one that plays the main star,
Yeah.
she's from that high school.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that is, I mean, how more authentic can you really get?
Right.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
you had a problem because they just they would try to party out a little bit or anything of
Yeah.
that nature. That is
Yeah. And then I would the weekends would come up, and or we would shoot on the weekends. Sometimes we'd have a couple days off during the week, and I remember taking the girls to go eat at the Grove,
Mm,
in LA, and we like La Piazza, Italian restaurant, and we're eating, we're having dinner, and I'm sitting with them and talking to them, and they're telling me their stories, and it was crazy because it was like we were making something that nobody had any clue what we were doing, and Jessica lives now in Catalina Island,
mm,
to her husband, and she's got a couple of kids, and
mm.
I just saw her like not like less than a month and a half ago. I went to go shoot a commercial in Catalina that I directed, and on the way over there, as soon as I get off the boat, who I run into right away is it's Jessica, and like it's right before the film is going to come out, so it's awesome. But yeah, I'm very close to them and stay in touch with them, and some of them live up in Oregon and Washington, and they're all over the place. But yeah, they made the film. They were real.
They definitely did. I gotta take a vacation to Catalina Island. It's been forever since I've been there. Beautiful place. I gotta
Yeah,
get
love
out
it.
there. I gotta
Yeah,
get out there and do a little snorkeling or something.
yeah.
Um, let's talk about some of the heavy hitters that you have in this movie. You got Danny Glover on there. You got Snoop Dogg on there. How'd you get some of these heavy hitters?
Well, Danny Glover came through us by way of our unit production manager, who um, who had a close connection to him. So we sent him the script. He loved the script. Same thing with Snoop Dogg. We had a connection through Snoop. We sent him the script. He found love with the film, and uh, and then same thing with Kate Del Castillo. We got the script in her hands. She loved it, and so these actors agreed to work on the film for basically scale, SAG scale, which is like minimum wage, for a Screen Actors Guild.
Mm,
And they, when an actor agrees to work on a film that you're doing for that kind of money, they're doing it because they love the story. And again, it was a story that drove these performances, and for them to accept it and to come on the film and do it. So if you have a really good script that's a really good story, you find a way to get that script into their agent's hands or their hands. Good actors are going to say yes to good projects no matter what, because they can make a lot of money on another movie that ain't so great script wise, but it's a commercial project and they get paid a lot of money. But they're really trying to work on these kinds of films that they love the story, and it's driving their artistry.
yeah, yeah. I was a little bit surprised to see them on the movie, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't seem like it got the highest budget. I wonder how much they agreed, to get paid for this movie. But no, now that you put it in those terms, where it's like, hey, you know what? They really love the story, and this is going to be something really meaningful, and they want to say I was a part of that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, definitely. Let's talk about what's up with the movie? Why did it take so long for this movie to come out? So you guys shot this, I believe it was 2009.
Yes, we premiered the film in 2009 at the Toronto Film Festival. So that's when we were done with the film.
Mm, mm,
2009. and we had been accepted into Sundance Film Festival earlier in the year, but we could not premiere the film at Sundance because we weren't done with it. We weren't ready, you know? And
Okay.
so 2009, we're finished with the film, and we take it to Toronto, and great success at Toronto. We're voted best at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, by Variety magazine. Um, uh, the LA Times writes about us as a future Oscar contender. That's how much they love the movie. And so we come back to LA, and we premiere the film in LA for the first time. That was the world premiere. We premiered in LA for the first time at the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, Edward James Olmos's film festival.
Right.
And we premiered at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and great success. The biggest audience that film festival has ever had. There was over 2,200 people that filled up the Grauman's Chinese Theater to see the movie. And then after we got the LA premiere done, we said, let's take the film to a smaller market and do what's called a test market or a platform release. And so we went to South Texas and released the film in the Rio Grande Valley, Brownsville, McAllen,
Oh yeah.
Harlingen,
Know
Donna,
that I know that place very well. I lived there for about 6 months. I lived in Harlingen.
okay, yeah. So that's where we
Harlingen,
went.
San Benito, McAllen,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went there, and we it's a high concentration of Latinos, about 16 mega theater complexes, and it was a perfect combination. Let's test this movie, see how well it does. We promoted the film there. We flew in Kate del Castillo from Mexico. She was working on La Reina del Sur, and we hit our numbers. We were like number one at the box office. We did fantastic. We were like, we did excellent. Well, we had made an agreement with a group of NFL players that an investment group that was going to put up the money to release the film widely after
Mm-hmm.
our success in South Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and they balked on the deal, and we got caught up in litigation with them, and the film got stuck in litigation nightmare. We were in court, and basically in litigation with this group for about 7 years, and that's really what dragged the film, like kept it just from not coming out, and until we finally got the film back, finally resolved those issues, and then by that time we had to resolve issues with the unions as well, and we resolved the issues with the unions, and we made a deal, and Sony wanted the movie. um, a couple of big platforms wanted the film, but they wanted it exclusively, and we were like, we want this film to be widely received right now. Now it's been too long, like thousands of people already saw it like a bootleg version.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want them to see the real thing now.
Yeah.
And so we made this deal with Despop Entertainment, and that's why the film's out now.
Yeah, I did not know when I watched it that it was bootleg. I just heard that this movie was out. I'm not even really sure how do you know how it got out bootleg?
No, I never found out. I mean, there, believe it or not, the swap meet in is it Santa Fe
San
or
Fe Springs?
Santa Fe Springs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The swap meet, the big swap meet there,
Yeah.
Lambarada,
Hmm.
right? So
Yes.
one weekend I had heard that they were selling them, and I went down there. I remember going with my girlfriend at the time, and walked into the swap meet, and I just started going around to the places that sold movies,
Hmm.
and lo and behold, there's my movie, and I
Hmm.
literally confiscated from every vendor there copies of the movie, and told them that they were going to basically get in trouble. And they were like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, this is my movie. I'm a producer. You know what I mean?" And I left there. I left there with about 60 bootleg copies of the film.
Wow.
Yeah, I just
Really?
took them. I just took them from them. Some of them, the vendors said, "Oh, they're going to call the cops." I said, "Call the cops over here. This is my movie. You're selling it without my permission." You know what I mean? So I took them and I left. I don't. They probably stopped selling it for a couple of weeks, and then they probably sold it again. I don't know. I didn't go back every weekend.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. Wow. That's a gutsy move, man. I mean, San Francisco swap meet, you don't really mess around in that place. You get out of line, man. People are real quick to start throwing down. No, but you know what? It's your product, it's your baby. I
Yeah,
probably would have done the same thing. It's like, hey, you know what? No, man, this isn't right. And
yeah,
for those that say like, "Oh, come on, man, just share it and everything." Listen, you pay for all the other movies.
yeah,
This is a movie here where it's like, why do you want it for free? Why are you willing to pay for everything else?
yeah.
But then when Gente makes something good for you to pay for, it's like, hey man, can you sell it to me for half price or something? It's like, come on, man. There's hard work behind all this. So
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm gonna make sure to buy the movie. I promise you that I will
Oh, thanks, man.
definitely
Yeah,
buy the movie, probably in hard copy, just so I could have for my collection.
yeah, yeah.
Because I really do like the story. Um, the character that it's about. What's her name? I'm forgetting. Castillo. Um,
Rascal.
yeah, Rascal. What's
Yeah,
her real life name?
Jessica Romero.
No, the one that the movie's about.
Oh, Leslie Castillo.
Leslie Castillo. Yes. Do we know where she's at today? Do we know what she's up to?
She's married. She has kids, and she's working on a book right now.
Okay.
So yeah, she's working on a book, and she was so excited and so happy when we, took the essay and turned it into a movie, and then, made it into, what we made it into. Yeah, that she's really pumped right now that finally people are out there, like, seeing her story and how this all came about. That was based on her. So yeah, she's very very proud and what she's accomplished in her life at this point, and yeah, hopefully this helps her launch her book and other things that she wants to write.
So legally, when did the movie come out? It wasn't long ago, right?
So the official release date of the film was in 2010 when we released in South Texas.
Right.
That was like the official release date, and
Okay.
then but never it had never been online streaming, none of that stuff, and so just recently was April 4th was our official release date
Of
um,
this year.
of this year for
Wow.
finally coming out on a wide platform.
That is quite the wait
Yeah,
for a movie to come out. But
yeah.
I'm glad it's out now. Is she a little upset? Like, hey, why did it take so long or anything like that? Is she very understanding? Like, hey, you know what? Things happen.
Yeah, no, everybody, I think, at some point was frustrated over the process, that was, really out of our hands. But, they're just, I think everybody's glad, just as I am glad now. Like, like it's better to finally have something come out that you're proud of than
Mm.
to never have come out and nobody able to see it. Now everybody can see it. Now you can, point people in a direction to go see that. And it sure helps when you're trying to make other movies. It sure helps when you're sitting with an investor, talking to them about your film that, you're finishing in Hawaii that you just shot. I just made a World War II film that's about a Mexican American navigator during World War II, and I shot the film in Maui, and I shot but believe it or not, I've been shooting the film over the course of the last 5 years because I've taken trips to Maui and
Mm.
shot on weekends or shot for 4 or 5 days at a time, hiking into the jungles of Maui to shoot this World War II movie. So sometimes movies take a long time to make, and sometimes they take a long time to come out. But as long as they come out and they finally get an audience, your art gets seen, and that's what's the most important. And this is a film that we're so proud of because the story really drives, and we think it's a positive story.
Yeah, no, it really is. I do like the fact. I mean, one can say like, "Oh man, what is this? Another gangster movie?" I mean, that's not really what it's about.
Yeah,
Yes, it's definitely the life in a gang, but it's more. I like, I again, no spoilers here. That's why we're kind of
yeah,
being a little bit vague because
yeah,
not everybody's seen this movie. But I do like the scene where she says, "That's not me." You
yeah,
know, I only do it because everybody else does it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, she's a product of her environment.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
she's down with it. You know, that's the
Yeah,
thing. Like, it's crazy because she's really down for the hood,
yeah,
but she's saying it like she admitted to one of her friends who had moved away. That's not me. You know, I'm only doing it because everybody else does it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's crazy that so many get caught up in that spider web, growing up in neighborhoods like that they get caught up in the web, and it's like, that's not really who I am, but oh well, that's what everybody's doing, that's what I'm gonna do. And lo and behold, sometimes it's a little bit too late. Some end up catching some real time. So
yeah, yeah,
uh, it's very unfortunate.
yeah,
um
yeah.
I do want to touch on a little bit on Mr. Aragon. Where is raza in the movies today? There's not a lot out there. We go back, you think Boulevard Nights, you think Mi Familia, you think obviously American Me, Blood In, Blood Out, Mi Vida Loca, La Bamba. You think of some of these movies and all. There's not really too much out there. I hope you can still hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much out there. A lot of them are independent films or very low budget films. Um, where is the gente today with the movie business?
We're fighting for inclusion and diversity in the industry. Part of the Writers Guild strike right now going on in Hollywood
Mm,
uh, is part of that fight for us being included in the industry, and us, our stories being told as well,
mm,
because we're so often just like ignored, and and our stories aren't told,
mm,
and we're already buying all the other shit. We're buying, the other stuff that they're making, but we're not included. We're not portrayed in all the films equally, like other ethnicities are. African
mm,
Americans are in every film you can think of nowadays. There's always the African American representation. Right now, which real strongly, because of the Oscar-winning film, Asian Americans are, now, being put in front of the camera and behind the camera in everything you can think of. Yet we come in little waves, and then we're gone. And
mm,
and yet we're still, as a population, we still support the movie industry, right? So we go to the movies, we go, in every neighborhood in Southern California and across the country. We're still supporting the movie industry, yet we're being excluded from it.
mm,
And so the studio's idea or their thoughts are like, well, fuck it, they're already buying our shit, they're already buying stuff from us. We're not losing them because they're already buying from us. We don't, like, unless a good story comes along, we're gonna put little zero effort into, making films about them. So
right.
we it's tough, to raise money and make a film. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is an expensive hobby,
Mhm,
and an expensive passion, expensive art. So, you know since we're not financed as well as others, our films, are taking, it takes 3 years to raise the money for a film, and then, like in our case, it took 10 years to get the movie out. um and and there's other small independent films that are like quality, but there's no money for marketing, you know
right.
um so we're far and few in between. So that's why when a film like, mine comes out, and ours, the team that made this film, um like our people have to support it, like they have to, like otherwise, like we just think that we're not going to be represented. Like we're not going to be seen up there, you know.
Mhm.
And you know, you can't tell you can't tell the story of the Mexican American navigator in World War II without telling the story of the young Chicana who decides she doesn't want to be a gangster anymore. Like that's
Mhm.
part of who we are. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So you can't deny it. It's not another gang film. It's an important story. This is
Yeah.
a girl that changed her life, you know?
Mhm.
And so we have to support like stories that like are told about us, you know. We have to, like, that's the only way, you know, we get represented, you know. So we're in a very still in a very sad state in the industry because there's not a lot of us. And
Mhm.
you know, I'm a rare breed in what I do and what I'm trying to do, but I'm still doing it. I'm going to do it till I'm a, you know, 95-year-old man, you know. Hopefully I make it that long, you know. You know, because maybe by then, you know, I'll have better financiers, and you know, I'll be an old Clint Eastwood making movies. I don't care, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. I have a good friend of mine. He's a pastor, Pastor David Rocha. He's from Northern California, and he's made quite a few movies, but there's no funding, you know, so it's very low budget. So it's kind of hard to push those movies out there.
Yeah,
There's another great movie called The Perfect Game about the Mexican Little League baseball team many years ago. I forgot what year. It's like in the 50s or something that won. It's a true story, but again, not a lot of funding behind it. It's hard to get these movies in theaters. It's hard to promote these movies, get them out there. And there's some great stories. I watched somebody on YouTube who tell stories about a lot of great Chicanos and everything, but you're never going to see movies about them. At least if they make movies about them, you're going to have to find them at the swap meet. You're not going to see them in
yeah,
the theater. And that's a sad thing, man. That's a really
yeah.
sad thing. So
It is.
at least now, I guess this summer we're getting a superhero, Blue Beetle.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
sons and I, we're going to go check that out. So
Good, good. Awesome.
but yeah, no, Mr. Aragon, listen, you're really doing some good work. You got my support 100%. I definitely want to bring you back on and pick a little bit more of your brain. I will keep on recommending this movie. I know
Yeah,
there's not a lot of advertisement for it, but listen, as long as I'm around, there's advertisement for Down for Life, because this is a great movie. It really is. And just
I appreciate it. I want to say, you know, thank you to you and thank you to the audience too, people that tune in and watch this or watch it on replay. You know, I grew up, you know, like I said, you know, it was a rough upbringing but you know, I think probably because of the broken home, you know, I grew up and my mom working so much and just the way she was, probably because, you know, she was tired and you know and bitter over her own relationship, you know. I didn't grow up feeling very loved, I had to learn how to love myself and how to be proud of myself and believe in myself to go out and accomplish this. And I think that there's a lot of us Latinos that grow up that way just because culturally it's how, you know, our parents are, you know. But as our parent as we can't blame our parents for only the bad stuff. We also have to give them credit for the good stuff. And because of that, because of the way I was raised, I am the person I am today, who wants to tell stories about love and kindness and empathy and inspiration to raza, you know. And there's more of us out there to tell great stories. And so I hope that, you know, the film and my career, when I'm said and done, I hope that it does that, because we deserve it. You know, we're a proud people and we've been around for a long time and got in a shitty, you know, shake of the deal. And it's time to turn it around and get what's ours.
And that we are going to. That we are going to. We're coming, man. We're coming. So, Mr. Aragon, I know you just gave a nice little speech. Any last thing before we wrap it up? I know you just kind of gave your last words right there, but any last thing before we end it?
Nah, just go out and see the movie and
Yes.
you know and share it with your friends and, you know, share it on Facebook, you know.
Yeah, and I will be dropping the link to the trailer if you guys just want to see the trailer to get a better idea of what it's about. I'll be dropping the link to the trailer in the comment section. It will be pinned, so it will be the first comment that you guys see when you guys go to the comment section. Check out the trailer, and I'm telling you guys, okay, it's a good movie. So thank you again, Mr. Aragon, for jumping on.
Hey,
I
thank
plan
you
on
for
having
having
more
me.
conversations with you. No, thank you. I plan on having more conversations with you. Everybody, M.A.S. Movies and Shows, you guys have yourself a great night.
Thank you.